Hi guys, this is Tim from Scoosh Music here, and today I am bringing you another Porter Robinson massive tutorial. This time it's going to be Easy by Matt Zone Porter Robinson. So I'll just play you through my little remake of it, and you'll hear how it'll end up sounding. Alright, so I'll take you through the lead part first. This is in Native Instruments Massive, as will all of the parts I show you today. So first off, just have oscillator 1 on, have it as square saw 1, wavetable intensity and amp at full, and then pitch at 0.00. Route that to filter 1, and then with filter 1 we're not doing anything with the sound at the moment. We're just having a low pass 4 with cut off at full resonance at the bottom. Now this won't affect the sound at the moment, but if you wanted to say do a frequency sweep in or something, then you can automate the cutoff if you want to. Just stick the mix up all the way to mix 1. Now let's have a look at the voicing tab. We've got the unisono up at 4, so you've got 4 voices at once. Pitch cutoff on, and then bring the right box down to about 0.5, so this slider doesn't affect the sound as much. Then just drag this slider a tiny bit to the right, just as long, well, so little that none of the white lines show on the left. I have it around 0.03ish in the top left box, so only a tiny little bit, because if you do too much of this it'll just sound like a right mess because all the pitches will clash. Then turn on your pan position, have it around here or around here. I'll stick it there. Then your oscillator tab, this is where you get your vibrato sound. So bring the depth up to just below 3 o'clock, and then the rate to around 1 o'clock-ish. That's pretty much it, apart from a few effects. So you've got a classic tube going. Just have the dry wet a little bit less than 12 o'clock, and the drive bang on 12. We've got a dimension expander for FX2. Got the dry wet at 3 o'clock and the size just below 12, and then turn on your EQ and just give it a little bit of a boost in the highs, and that is it for the patch. That should sound like this. It should sound like this. So it's not quite there yet, we need some effects to make it sound much better. So what we've got here is Maximus. We've just got it on the default settings, so when you open that up, just stick in a Maximus, where is it there? It should just come up like this, and it'll boost the volume a bit, which will make it sound better anyway, but it gives it a bit more highs, which is always good. Then we'll stick in a parametric EQ2. For this, we've dropped some of the highs a bit, just because it goes a bit far with the Maximus. Then I've done a little trough around 1400 hertz. I've just moved this what's it around the Q about, so it's not too wide, and that just lets, I can't remember which part it is, it could be the piano, I think it's the piano. It's so the key frequencies in the piano don't clash with the lead part, but you don't need to worry about that too much. Then I've just rolled off all the lower frequencies up to about 200 hertz. So just go on your band 1, right click, go to type, high pass, and then do it again, order steep 8. And that's your parametric EQ2. Then I've got a phaser on here. This is the default settings as well, but what I've done is just turn down the mix level to about, what's that, around 10 o'clock. So it isn't too obvious, or it doesn't take over the sound too much. Then I've got a VPS filter. Now you don't need this at all. This is just to do the same role as the filter. What is it? The filter 1 we've got, except it sounds a bit better with this. But yeah, you don't need to worry about that at all, unless you say wanted it to sweep in. But if you do, then you can just automate that so it slowly goes up, and that'll give you a nice little build. Back to the effects then. I've got ambience as well, which is a free reverb plugin. I'll probably link it in the bottom of the description, but I've used it before. Yeah, if you just search ambience VST, it should come up as well. But for this, I've got the I believe it's one of these PADI piano reverb presets. But you can have a look at the settings here if you're concerned about that. This does make it sound a bit better, although it kind of dampens the sound a bit. So if you want it to really stand out, then you don't have to bother with that. You could just stick on a fruity reverb or something. But yeah, I like it, so I put it on there. Then compressor, just to get it at the right volume and louden it and stuff. Yeah, I do your own compressor settings there, because I'm not very good with those. I'm not the greatest sound engineer in the world. Then limiter. Yeah, you don't need to do that either. Although I've side-chained it with the kick for later on. So just bear that in mind for when the kick comes in the chorus or the drop or whatever you want to call it. You'd want to sidechain that slightly so the kick can come through. But yeah, that is it for the lead part. So now it should sound like this. I'd say that's pretty close to the actual sound, but you can be the judge of that. Now we'll move on to the super saw. This is a pretty generic super saw. It's although it is slightly different to what you might already have if you've already got a super saw preset. So we've got all three oscillators on. First one 0.06 for the pitch, second one 11.98, and third one -12. So we've obviously got a bit of difference in the octaves here. First one's going to be square saw 2, wavetable and intensity at full, and then amp at about 3 o'clock because we don't want this to come through too much. Oscillator 2 is pretty much the main sound or the main kind of pitch that you want to come through. So we've got wavetable intensity and amp at full. And then oscillator 3, square saw 1 this time. This is going to be down an octave, wavetable and intensity at full again, and then amp at 12 o'clock because this we want to be a lot quieter than the others. Next, we haven't got any filters or anything, so you can just ignore all this stuff. Voicing tab. We've got unisono all the way up to 16, so we've got a lot of voices going on. Then pitch cutoff, again, bring the right box down to 0.5, so it's not affecting it as much, and this gives us, well, we can fine tune it a bit more because each little bit of the slider will do less. So we've got it around here. It's around 0.25, 0.22, around there. Just don't do it too much though, because then it'll sound a mess, as it always does if you go crazy with some pitch cutoff. Then pan position on, around the same place as before, or I'll go the opposite side, because why not? FX1, we've got a reverb, so we've got a bigger sound. Dry wet, just below 3, size around 10 o'clock. Dimension expander for FX2, dry wet 2, size at 2. And then EQ, again we're just boosting the high shelf a bit so the highs come through more. I believe that's it for the patch. So fairly simple. I'll just grab that up without effects. Where have we got? So yeah, it's not bad, but it's a bit too hard sounding, if you know what I mean. So first off, I've got duet. I'll just turn the master down a bit because it's maxing out. I've got duet, which is sort of like a stereo enhancement plugin. This is free as well. Martin Eastwood Audio Duet. If you put that in Google, it should come up, but I might link to it again. And that just yeah, it's kind of like a bit like a chorus, but it's not quite. Like, so it sounds like there's 2 parts there, and it just makes it sound a bit bigger again. Ambience, we've got this again. I've got no idea what preset is. It might be the same as the other one, so I just copy out what I've got there. But of course you can always just use Fruity Reverb too if you can't be bothered downloading that. Then I've got Parametric EQ again. This is a bit more funky than last time. I've got another high pass to roll off the bottom, so that's around 80 Hz. Then I'm not going to go through all this, apart from the high shelf bit. That's just to boost the highs again. But this stuff is just so the important bits come out of the mix and the not so important bits drop, so the parts can come through. Next, I've got a phaser again. This is the default yet again, and I brought the mix down to about 10 o'clock, which I think is pretty much the same as last time, for the same reasons again, so it's not too obvious, but you can still hear it and it still makes it sound a bit nicer. Then compressor and limiter again. Again, I've got the sidechain going on for when we have the kick. It's a bit more important on the Super Saw, so bear that in mind if you want to try and reproduce the kick bit, or use this where you've got a kick or something, I don't know. Oh yeah, on the compressor. But again, I'm not great with all this compressing and sound engineering business, so I'd do that yourself. Last but not least, we've got the bass part. This is quite a nice sound, I think. So all three oscillators on. Oscillator 1, detune it 12, or alternatively just have it at 0. Yeah, that's worth mentioning actually. You could tune these all up an octave each, if you prefer having your general pitch around 0. But I tune it down, so on my keyboard it's easier to play lower notes on the bass part. But yeah, you can do differently if you want to. Anyway, I'll go through what I've done. So we've got pitch down an octave for oscillator 1, down 2 octaves for oscillator 2, and down 1 for oscillator 3. But bear in mind, oscillator 3 will sound 2 octaves down, because strontium's an octave lower for some reason. Or it sounds an octave lower anyway. So for oscillator 1, wavetable and intensity at full. I'll then amp just above 12 o'clock, because we don't want too much of that. Oscillator 2 pitch, I've already gone through that actually, haven't I? But yeah, wavetable at full, intensity at full, amp at full. And then oscillator 3, wavetable at full, intensity at the bottom, and then amp at full. And also for this here, we've got it as a bend plus minus, or minus plus even. And this does make a big difference to the timbre, so I'd watch out for that. Yeah, we don't need to bother with routing to filters. You could if you wanted to, but I haven't done that. So voicing temp again, unisono up to 8, so we've got quite a few voices at once. I've stuck it on monophonic because we're not going to be playing more than one note with the bass part. And then pan position on, here or here again, whatever you want. In the oscillator tab, we've got restart via gate ticked here, which does make quite a noticeable difference to the sound. I'll just play through how that should sound with and without it. But I'll just turn off my effects first so it sounds the same as it will for you. So that is a massive difference. Make sure you've got that ticked. That's one thing that I bet I'd get a lot of comments saying, "Oh, I don't know what I've done wrong." That'd be it. It does make a big difference, and it's not that obvious really. You wouldn't think a little button like that would. You can move these about if you want, these little sliders. It doesn't make too much difference though, but whatever you fancy. Yeah, I've already done that, haven't I? I've already done voicing. Ignore me. Right, effects now. We've got some chorus, which makes it sound... Well, I'll show you the difference. So that kind of makes it fall down in the mix a bit, so it's not quite as like intrusive in the scheme of things, but it still sits there and you've still got the deep part. I probably haven't explained that very well, but yeah, do add the chorus, I think, because it does sound much better for whatever reason. Dry wet at 2, rate at say around 11, 12ish, then depth at just above 9 o'clock. Reverb, just a small reverb. Dry wet at 12, size at 1 or 2, density at 12, colour at 12. Again, this just makes the sound a bit bigger, and we're not bothering with EQ on this. So that's it for the patch. I'll just go through some effects again. So first up we got Maximus, exactly the same as before, just the default patch. Then we've got parametric EQ. We're using this one to just cut off the very high and the very low frequencies, so we've got more room with our volume, and so the really low ones don't just mess up the sound. So just high pass again, and then here we've got a low pass, steep 8 again. That's around, what's that, 16,000 hertz, 17,000 hertz ish, somewhere around there. And then that one was about 40 hertz. Next we've got duet again. Or have we had duet before? I forget really easily. Yes, we have had duet before, so it's the same one again. Just have a look at the patch we've got here. Then fast distortion. Now this one might seem a bit odd because you can't hear any distortion in it, or not much, but that's because we've gone to the warmth preset, which just adds a little bit of warmth to it. Next I've got another parametric EQ. This time I'm doing some stuff with the frequencies. So I boosted around 154 hertz because this is around where all the good stuff happens with this sound, and it'll cut through the mix there, which is what we want. And then I've done a bit of a high shelf here to get rid of all the highs because we don't need them because it's a bass part, and then cut off the very highs again because I think we got a little bit of mess from some of the earlier effects since we cut off the high things. I'm pretty sure that's it. I don't think I've done much else, but if you can just like make it look like that, you'll be fine. And then compressor again. This is a little bit different to the others, but still it's just compression. So yeah, do that yourself and how it sounds with your audio equipment. And then limiter. This time we aren't bothering with any sidechain or that. I've just got it to cut off any highs that come about for whatever reason. But yeah, just ignore that. And that is it. The MIDI should be in a download link for all the parts, so you can just get straight in with the patches. And if you just want the MIDI for whatever reason, then you've got it. Piano part here. This is just any old piano like preset or a setting on Nexus or something, anything like that. Just use that. I'll go through the effects on that though, because that makes a bit of a difference. I've got a Maximus yet again. Oh, don't want to press that. Ambience again. This is definitely one of the piano presets. I'm not sure which, but just have a look at that. And then compression EQ. This is a really funky EQ. I'm pretty sure this is around where I had a trough in the lead part. We've now got a peak in the piano, so this can cut through with the frequency, because the piano and the lead play around the same sort of notes, so where you want to be able to hear them, they kind of clash and then they get lost a bit in the mix. So if you boost piano around here, then it'll come through, but the lead will come through on other frequencies, so it won't ruin that. Then I've cut off the lows with this here. Then I've also done a low shelf, just because on a piano, when you tap the keys, there'll be like the tapping noise kind of thing at the lower frequencies, and with Maximus that boosts them, and you don't really want to hear them too much, so I've just shelved that off. And I've done a little bit of a high shelf here, just because again Maximus peaks the highs, or don't peak the highs, it boosts the highs, and cut off the top, the very top as well, again. So thanks for watching. I know I haven't made many videos recently, but hopefully I can start doing them a bit more often now I've got my new PC sorted. Oh, and also please leave a comment, good or bad. It's always nice to have a little bit of feedback. And yeah, see you guys later.